Hello and welcome to the inaugural Racing Bet preview, previewing the first of the big three races across the Melbourne Spring Carnival, Caulfield Cup Day and the Everest Day. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined by Trent, Crebbin, and we are really excited to be part of this team, launching RacingBet.com.au, the new frontrunner in horse racing content, on one of the biggest days of the Australian racing calendar. Trent, we've been teasing this for a few weeks now. It's really pleasing to be able to launch our product on one of the biggest days of the year.
Yeah, it's very exciting to be finally launching Racing Bet. The website looks great. There's going to be lots of content up there, so it's very exciting. And I'm excited to bring it to you on such a great day of racing.
If you haven't already, head over to racingbet.com.au. Check out all the new features on the website where all our content will be. We'll have race-by-race previews for Sydney, Melbourne, other jurisdictions. We're going to have our runner-by-runner previews for, of course, the Caulfield Cup and the Everest. We're going to be bringing you a bunch of features, punting tools, educational pieces, videos, you name it. We're going to have it on racingbet.com.au. And as I've said, we're really excited to be part of the team launching it on Caulfield Cup and Everest Day. Now, we're going to be taking you through our best bets, as we always do, for Caulfield and Randwick this Saturday, October 17th. And we're going to be taking an in-depth look at both the Group 1 Caulfield Cup and the Everest. Trent, we're going to kick off with you over at Caulfield, and we'll get stuck straight into your best bets of the day. Your best comes up in race number 7. You're with a horse that you have been with for a number of starts now. Horse number 6, Alpha Oro. Best price, currently $2.15.
Yeah, I'm sticking fat with Alpha Oro again. I've been with him a number of starts in a row, and he hasn't let me down yet. He's putting up quite the picket fence there. I think this is a really good option for him over 1,000 metres. They elected to go to this race instead of the Caulfield Sprint last week, and I think he's much better suited here. He gets in on the minimum with 54 kilos. Whereas last week at weight for age, he would have had to carry 58.5. And I just think everything really suits well for him here. He gets barrier 2. He should be right up on speed, either leading or just sitting in behind Fabergino, depending on how well she jumps. And I just think with that weight pool, a soft track, if we do get all the rain predicted, who knows really, it's been a week-to-week lottery. But if we do get the rain predicted, he's only going to be more suited. And I just think he looks really hard to beat again. Anything over even money looks a good price.
Okay, moving on to your best value bet of the day, and this comes up slightly earlier in the card. It's race number 3, horse number 4, Just a Tribute for John Salinitri and Mark Zara, drawn barrier 1. Currently $11.50 available with 365 for those who can get on there.
Yeah, I thought Just a Tribute was a really good bet here in race number 3. I think he brings the strongest form line coming out of a really good 1,400 metre race at Flemington behind Poland and Grand Slam. Of course, Grand Slam went on to run 3rd in a Caulfield Guineas. So obviously that form looks very strong. I think he gets a few things in his favour here. First of all, the jockey change is very significant. He gets Zara replacing Liam Riordan, so that's a big tick. Also draws barrier 1, going from barrier 8. So I think he can definitely settle a bit closer. And I thought his run last start was very good, running the fastest last sectionals of that race quite easily, really. So he's got that 1,400 metre run under his belt. I think he settles closer from barrier 1, brings the best form lines, gets a good jockey. And I think at the double figures, $11, $11.50 or so available, I think he's a great bet. And I expect him to start in single figures.
Very good. So quickly recapping, Trent's best is race 7, number 6, Alpha Oro, and his best value comes up in race number 3, horse number 4, Just a Tribute. We'll leave things at Caulfield there for a second. We'll come back in a little while to touch on the Caulfield Cup, but we'll head over to Randwick and get into my best bets of the day. My best comes up in race number 8. It's a 2,000 metre race, and I'm with the favourite, number 2, Star of the Seas. Chris Waller, James McDonald, currently around $2.10, which I think is a pretty fair price overall, because I think this is a really thin race. I think Star of the Seas is obviously, it's been very public knowledge how unlucky he was at the start of his prep in his first 2 runs, just going down narrowly with not much luck in either of those races. And then he didn't get much luck either last start in another Group 1 contest where he was held up for most of the straight. Never really got clear at any stage. That was over the mile. He steps up to 2,000 metres now, which is a distance he's yet to win over. But from this camp, I don't really have any doubts that he's going to be able to run a 2,000 metre race. We saw Colding had similar doubts last start. He came out and ran the 2,000 metres perfectly fine, and I think it's going to be a similar case here. I just think this is a very weak race. I think Star of the Seas is the best horse in the race, and he's a good things price at around $2.10, but I think he's going to be very difficult to beat here. Barrier 6, and I'm confident he'll run the trip, and I'm confident he'll win. Trent, Star of the Seas, moral, or are you just going to let it go?
I think he's obviously the horse to beat. Just looking, he has never seen 2,000 meters before. Of his breeding, it really should be okay, and you could probably make a case that at this stage of his preparation, he could almost be looking to step up in distance. Gets in obviously incredibly well under the weight scale. You know, only giving 3 kilos to a couple of horses coming out of benchmark 70 kind of races. So I think he's probably $2 is probably a fair enough price, really. I think 50% of the time he wins this race.
I think if you look at the market, though, and even the horses that are rated in this race, his next danger in the market is Vanagirl, who's rated 13 points below him. And it's probably a fair case to say that she may not have come back this prep as well as she left last prep. I mean, she was well outclassed in the Epsom Handicap last start. Okay, yes, this is a drop in class, but I still expected to see a little bit more from her last start. And at $5.50, you'd have to be taking her on trust. And then your next runner in the market, as you've just alluded to, is Quintessa, coming here off a benchmark 78, where she ran fourth. She's rated 74, which is, you know, some 35 rating points below Star of the Seas, and he's only giving her 3 kilos. So with this compressed weight, Star of the Seas carrying 59, the bottom weight carrying 56, you know, 35 rating points for 3 kilos is a very significant weight scale. And I just think he's thrown in here at the weights. I think he's clearly the horse to beat, and I think he'll just win. So that's my best for the day. Race 8, number 2, Star of the Seas, currently around $2.10, and I expect him to start shorter than that. We'll move on to my best value bet of the day, and this is one that, Trent, I know you're also keen on. It's race number 6, horse number 3, Tactical Advantage. He's currently at $20, I think, with Sportsbet. Looks a really good each-way bet to my eye. I am keen on Deprive in the same race. He is the favourite. I think he's definitely the horse to beat, and you know, he deserves to be favourite, but I think $20 for Tactical Advantage is well over the odds. The key with this horse is coming here third up from a spell. I think his third up record stands at 6 starts for 4 wins. His last 2 preps, he's won third up from a spell. Last preparation, I think he came from near last on the turn and got up to win third up over in a similar race. So I think he just strikes the right race today, and I think he's well over the odds. I know you agree with that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on him third up in his last 2 preps, once in Melbourne and again last time in Sydney, and that win was outstanding. He had no right to win that from where he was. I think he's going quite well as well. He went well first up in the shorts, obviously just a bit outclassed there behind some very good horses. And then last start at a very good midweek race, just dropped back to 1,000 meters, had a big weight with 3 kilo claimer Louise Day on. It's probably just a bit of a tick over run, really, not really suited there. And I think back up to the 1,200 meters is his best distance. Draws quite well. Jason Collett takes the reins. Third up, like you said, is the key. I'm really keen.
As I've said, $20 available there. I think that's a huge price. I'll be backing 2 horses in that race, Deprive and Tactical Advantage. That's my best for Randwick. Now we'll get into the day's feature races. Of course, we've got the Everest at Randwick and also the Group 1 Caulfield Cup over in Melbourne. Trent, where should we start?
We'll start with the Caulfield Cup. We'll go around my jurisdiction.
Okay, sounds good. Now, this is race number 9 on the card. The Group 1 Caulfield Cup, $5 million. We're going to have a full field here, a number of internationals, which we're going to speak through here. And what looks a pretty strong edition of the race. How do you compare this race compared to recent years?
Yeah, I think it is quite a strong edition. I think the internationals that have come over here are bring some of the best form lines in the world, especially the top weight Anthony Van Dyke has run some really good races at his last few. So I think it's very strong depth wise. I think there's some locals that definitely have some strong claims as well.
I think that's a good place to start, Anthony Van Dyke. The horse you've just mentioned, of course, this is a Coolmore horse, Aidan O'Brien, Hugh Bowman booked to ride. I suppose the query with this horse is barrier 21. He's been given the car park draw, the visitors draw. If you look back through this horse's form, he just looked incredibly strong for a race like this. I mean, he comes off a win at Longchamp over Stradivarius, who's probably the best star in the world. Then you go back further through his form, and he split the likes of Gayath and against Stradivarius at Newmarket back in June. That is elite Group 1 staying form.
Yeah, absolutely. That run behind Gayath was very good. That horse is rated the best in the world, I believe, at the moment. So I think he's fully deserved of that 58.5 kilos, that big impost. I think it's reserved for only the very best horses, and I think he is right up there with the best horses in the world, really. Look, he's definitely in the game. He's going to be right in the finish, I think. Even from the wide barrier, I think he's going to be rolling forward. There's not a lot of speed in this race. I wouldn't even be surprised just to see him roll straight to the front and just lead this field, because drawn out wide, he's going to be forced to go forward, and I think he could just end up rolling along in front. I don't think it'll go at a very fast tempo. I think it'll be average at best. His last start at Longchamp, like you said, when beating Stradivarius, they went at an absolute crawl. I saw something that was another 2,400 meter race on the day, and I think it was about 30 lengths slower than the other one for a very high quality contest. So I think he's probably just going to be a bit of a sit and sprint, which won't be a disadvantage to Anthony Van Dyke up on speed. Just my main query with him is if we are on a proper soft track. I think he's much better on a good surface. He has a couple of wins on soft tracks, but all his best form recently is on good tracks. He's run 2 back at Royal Ascot, was on a soft track. He was expected to really win there with a strong SP and could only manage 5th. So I just think if we are on quite a soft 6 or worse, he's going to potentially struggle just with that map and big weight as well. If we are on a good track, I'll be having something on him for sure.
Yeah, I think he's a great bet at $6.50 or $7. Anthony Van Dyke. We know how strong this European form is when they come to Australia, and it's interesting because the weight for age division in Australia for the middle distance horses at the moment kind of looks to be not necessarily poor, but there's definitely a query over the strength of our middle distance ranks. So a horse like this with this elite form, I think with $6.50, $7 on offer has to be a bet in this race. Not too worried about the wide barrier myself. I think 7 of the last 10 or 7 of the last 11 winners of the Caulfield Cup have drawn double-digit barriers. Hugh Bowman, big race Hugh, he'll get him right from the barrier. And I think he's a terrific bet at the odds. Let's touch on the favourite, number 7, Very Elegant. She's currently $5 to win. Drawn barrier 11, Mark Zara on for Chris Waller, coming off a win in the Group 1 Turnbull Stakes, 2,000 metres at Flemington, where she was very brave, I thought. I thought she was in a bit of trouble there, but she fought on well to get her nose in front.
Yeah, God bless her, because my day was going to be very grim if she didn't get up in the Turnbull. I thought her run was full of merit. She kind of had to pop out a bit earlier than she probably would have liked to, had to face the breeze and make a bit of a long, sustained run there. She fought on very strongly, got the win. There's case to be made that there's a lot of horses just behind her in a very bunched finish that will firstly get a lot of weight off her, 3-4 kilos off her, that you could argue could turn the tables. That was on a good track as well. I don't think she's not inept on a good track as we saw, but obviously she is much better on a soft track. Just depends on how much rain we do get. If we are on a soft track, I think she'll be quite heavily backed. I think she'll start a clear favourite if we're on a soft track. I'm just not really sure. I just think you can make a case for a couple behind her in that Turnbull run. I know she's going to be suited stepping up to the 2,400 metres, 4th up. Yeah, she ran probably her best race in the autumn, 4th up in a Tangrad over 2,400 metres. She won by nearly 5 lengths. Obviously her form in the Randwick and the Queen Elizabeth last prep as well around Adabe is very strong. She's probably about that price that I'm probably happy to risk her in this, especially if we are on a good track. It's just kind of a race day kind of dependent one there for me, I think. But at the moment, I'm happy to risk her.
Okay, and your top selection is one of the internationals, the Joseph O'Brien trained Buckhurst. He's horse number 4, currently around $11 or $12 in the betting market. As I mentioned, Joseph O'Brien trains him. Ben Mellon takes the ride, drawn barrier 9. He's had a couple of runs over in Ireland before travelling out here. How did you land with him on top?
Yeah, well, I guess you kind of just look at the internationals first, and there are a couple of knocks with Anthony Van Dyke just with the weight and wide draw. Buckhurst gets in here with 55 kilos, and you look back through his overseas form, and it's very hit and miss. He reminds me a little bit of a horse from last year, Constantinople, who was a bit raw, didn't really know what he was doing, obviously had a huge engine and probably should have won the Caulfield Cup last year. It was very unlucky. But I think going back through Buckhurst's form, he's shown glimpses of that elite kind of ability that will be needed and looks suited here. In a 3-horse field, he comfortably beat a horse called Sir Dragonet, who's right up in the Cox Plate markets. And Sir Dragonet has also run some very big races that ties in with Anthony Van Dyke. He's run second to Magical, who's one of the best fillies or best mares in the world, who's just had the measure of Anthony Van Dyke a couple of times as well. Then last start over 2,400 metres, stepping up to the 2,400 metres for the first time, he had to carry 63.5 kilos. So he was giving a horse called Tiger Moth about 5 kilos or so in the weight. And Tiger Moth won that race quite comfortably, and he's now a favourite for the Melbourne Cup. I thought they just rode Buckhurst wrong. I think it was just a bit of a barrier trial. They had a big weight, and they rode him pretty much last from the barrier, which is not really his usual racing pattern. He normally races on pace, and he's led fields before. So I think they just, with the big weight, they just let him go back and just kind of blend into the race as a bit of a barrier trial just only a few weeks ago, really, before coming here. Barrier 9, that'll come in, I think, to barrier 8 or 7 once the emergencies come out. Ben Melamon, I expect them to be fairly positive from the barrier. I think he probably lands in the 1-1. I just think with that ability that he's shown and at the price that he is, I think you can make a really strong case for him.
One of the more interesting runners, and we seem to say this every race at the moment when he lines up, but that's horse number 11, Master of Wine. Craig Williams is booked for the Hawks camp, grand final stable. There was a lot made of his first few starts. Very disappointing first up when close enough to favourite in the Wink Stakes, of course. He then went to the Mackay Diva and ran fourth before being beaten less than a length in the Turnbull last start. 2,400 metres, fourth up from a spell, a race they seem to have targeted all along with him. Is this the day that he turns his form around, or is he under the odds currently around $8?
I think he's about his right price. Just a little bit longer in the market, Very Elegant. The market seems to really love this horse. Like, he was backed into $6 against Very Elegant in the Turnbull, who started $5. He did start favourite, I believe, in that Wink Stakes over Very Elegant as well. But there's a couple of things in his favour to say that he can turn the tables. He gets a 2.5 kilo weight swing off Very Elegant for I think it was a 0.8 length defeat in that race. Draws barrier 7 here, which I think is perfect. He should be able to sit just off the pace, get a lovely run. And he also gets Willow replacing Michael Rodd, who I think, it's a positive jockey change there. Willow's one of the best riders in Melbourne, and he's the one you want on board with just 53.5 kilos. And just like you said, the grand final camp of the Hawks stable, we've seen it time and time again. We saw it with Ole Kirk recently, winning the Golden Rose and then the Caulfield Guineas. They can get a horse to really peak on their grand final day. I think this horse has just been set to peak in this race all along, over 2,400 metres. So I think he's a really big chance. He's probably around his right price, like I said. Wet ground will be no issue if we do get that. So I think he's one you definitely probably have to keep on side.
So yeah, I'm against you because I agree with a lot of what you say. It comes down to 53.5 kilos, drawn well, grand final camp. Looks to have been set for this race all along. But his runs don't really scream to me like, he's really going to improve enough to win this race. I really want to be seeing them kind of really put the writing on the wall for races like this. And it's a really competitive lineup. He'll need to be at his very best. And I just don't know whether he's come back in his best form. Or maybe he's just not that good. I'm not sure. But at around $8 in the market, I think he's one that I have to let go. Obviously can't back every horse in the race, so he's one I'm going to be taking on. Let's get to a couple of others. Horse number 17, Toffee Tongue, Chris Waller and Mick D, 51 kilos. Flashed home along the rail in the Turnbull Stakes, was beaten a nose by Very Elegant. 4-year-old mare up to 2,400 metres. We've seen this kind of horses run well in the past in this race. Is she a little bit of a rough hit around $16?
No, I thought she was unders in the race, to be honest. I thought she had every favour in that Turnbull Stakes. The wind was very strong that day, and we saw a lot of winners come from kind of rails in run and poking through along the fence, coming from back in the field, because that was just where you didn't have to face the wind whatsoever. You got cover and just poking through. It was the perfect run. I just don't think she's good enough to win this. And her win in the Australasian Oaks at Morphettville over 2,400 metres was the exact same thing. She settled midfield on the fence, got every favour, just poking up along the rails. I just don't think she's really good enough to win a Caulfield Cup. I know her run last start will suck a few people in, but not for me.
Okay, and third in that race was Finch. He comes into this race third up from a spell. Two good runs in the Chelmsford and the Turnbull to open his campaign. He looks to be suited stepping up to 2,400 metres, third up from a spell, drawn well midfield, barrier 12, Damien Lane on board, currently hovering around $12. How do you assess his chances? While you're trying not to die on the other end there.
Yeah, talking for a while. Finch, I think he is an obvious chance again. I thought his run in the Turnbull was very good. He kind of had to face the breeze for a fair while as well. You can always kind of make a case for him. He's always around the mark, but he just always seems to lack that last little 50, 100 metres just to get over the line. He doesn't really have a turn of foot. He's just that big, gangly, striding Frankel horse that just hasn't got a turn of foot. And just if it's a slow tempo, whatever it is, he just needs the perfect ride to get going at the right time and kind of hang on. Whereas if he gets into a bit of trouble or, it is a bit of a sit and sprint to the line, I think other horses will just be able to get over the top of him late because he doesn't really have that turn of foot required to win a really big race. So I think, he's probably another one that's about his right price. You could make a case for him. He'll probably finish in the top 5, but not for me as a winning hope.
Yeah, I agree. He does he just seems to lack that kind of, that dynamic turn of foot that you really need to win these kind of races. But it's quite fascinating. He's a 7-year-old now. He's only had 17 career starts, 9 starts in Australia. It feels like he's been around for a while, but we haven't seen him that much. Anyway, interesting runner. I'm probably leaning your way as well with him. I thought one well over the odds, and I thought this was a really good run in the Turnbull Stakes, was horse number 13, Warning, drawn out in barrier 20. But gets in with 53 kilos, ran the fastest final 2, 4, 6, and 800 metres of the Turnbull Stakes. We know he's going to be suited stepping up to 2,400 metres. I thought he was a sneaky chance here, third up from a spell, $26. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I thought he was obviously a big run in the Turnbull coming from a long way back. I thought maybe his sectionals were just a touch flattered. Again, he was one that didn't have to come wide and face that breeze. So he just managed to poke his way along through the field. I think he's going to get a long way back from the barrier as well, which could make it tough. I think his grand final is probably the Melbourne Cup. I think $26 is probably about his right price considering his map, how far back he's going to get. But, go off his form in the SA Derby behind Russian Camelot and Dallasan there. So it's obviously, I think he's good enough probably at the 2,400 metres as well. I just don't really like the map for him here.
Yeah, I think we often see with these 3-year-olds that the prep after their 3-year-old, especially Derby winning horses, we see it a lot with the Oaks. They kind of struggle to come back the next preparation. And that seems to be kind of what happened with him. I mean, he did run third to Russian Camelot in the Derby, but I think he's returned like a better horse his preparation. His run last start was just fantastic. And at $26, I'm going to have something on him. Not too worried about the wide barrier, as I've said. And 2,400 metres third up looks good to me. I know one horse you're keen to back and you've made him your value pick in the race is number 18, Chapada. Gets him with 50.5 kilos coming off a win last start in the Group 2 Herbert Power Stakes. We've seen that form measure up in this race previously, and that followed a very good run first up in the Naturalism as well behind Order of the Garter.
Yeah, I think Chapada's absolutely flying this preparation. I think he kind of raced through the winter, had a few runs, kind of came to the end of his prep, had a bit of a let up. Comes back here, like you said, he was really good first up in the Naturalism, backed it up again in the Herbert Power, drops 3.5 kilos from that run. Yeah, we have seen it being used in recent times. We saw it with Boom Time in 2017, coming off a Herbert Power placing. I think Chapada's probably the form around him is even better than what Boom Time was really going, the form that Boom Time kind of had coming into that race. So I think Chapada's a big chance here on the quick backup. We see so often with stayers on a quick backup that it is a recipe for success. I thought around $26 or so, might even get a little bit longer on the day. I'm not really sure what the market will do with him because he's probably, he's outclassed on face value of a couple of these, but I thought he could run a big race, especially if they push forward. He does have a bit of tactical speed, is drawn a bit of a sticky barrier, but I think there's a big chance in this race to push forward. Joe McNeil, lightweight, is going to be hungry to try and get some Group 1 success. And I think, Order of the Garter was favourite for this race not long ago. And Chapada's running, beat him home easily last start. Obviously something wrong with Order of the Garter, but was not far off him in the Naturalism as well. So I think he has to be considered a genuine lightweight hope at around $26.
Trent's struggling. Is it the further we go, Trent's struggling. So we'll keep it very short on some of these other international runners who I'm sure our viewers will be keen to get a word on. There's the likes of Dashing Willoughby coming over for Andrew Balding. They've got Prince of Arran returning again. I think this is it must be his third year here now for Charlie Fellows with Jamie Carr booked. And we've also got True Self, who's been here before, Willie Mullins with Declan Bates booked. Just a quick one line on each of those three.
I'm just going to say, I'd do much better in an Everest in the Caulfield Cup. I cannot stay. Dashing Willoughby, I think probably better over 3,200 meters. Can race on pace. Doesn't really have a turn of foot either, so I think he might struggle a little bit. Happy to risk him. Prince of Arran, another one better suited at 3,200 meters. Always seems to run better in Australia than he does overseas. Like, he's been beaten up overseas, but just seems to ignore that and races well over here. Again, I think Melbourne Cup, this will probably just be a pipe opener for him heading towards that run. True Self, I think will run last. She is going awfully. I don't know why they're even running her here. She's been beaten about an average of 9 lengths in her last 4 or 5 starts. She's got none. And that's all of them, I believe.
Okay, so in summary for the Group 1 Caulfield Cup, which way are you going? And maybe try and give the viewers at home a somewhat of a betting strategy for this race.
Yes, I'm with Buckhurst on top. I think the talent that he has, I think he profiles well for this kind of race. I think he can roll forward from the gate. And at the 11 or so dollars, I think he's a good play. I also think Chapada at $26 is overs. And I could come with you, Anthony Van Dyke, especially if we're on a soft 5 or better. I think you could you have to have him on your side. Master of Wine's probably the next one of my picks. In terms of a betting strategy, just with a kind of unit play here, I'd probably be going 2 units Buckhurst, 1 unit Chapada, and probably 1 unit Anthony Van Dyke, just as a smaller result in the race.
Yep, very good. I'll be playing on Anthony Van Dyke. I think 650 is a great bet. Very elegant. I probably won't risk very elegant. I just think this camp especially, she's been set for this race all along ever since she returned. This preparation, they said she's under Cup's campaign, and she just knows how to win. She's a line chaser. She's a winner. She's won 10 from 23, and I think she'll be right in the finish again, no doubt about that. I think warning, $26 has to be thrown in. I agree with you on Chapada at $23. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the market also does with Buckhurst. You know, they wouldn't be surprised if they gravitated towards these international runners. But in terms of a unit play for me, on the spot here, I'll probably have 2 units Anthony Van Dyke at $6.50. Probably play a unit on Very Elegant at $5. And half a unit each on Chapada and Warning, both at $23, $26 there. Happy to take on Master of Wine, unlike you. Pretty happy to bet around him, and just gonna hope the European form stacks up in these staying races once again. That rounds out our summary of the Caulfield Cup. Let's shoot over to Sydney. We're going to get into, it's not a Group 1, but it is the Everest, obviously a $15 million race. It's race number, if I can find it on the card here, race number 7 on the card. Hopefully Trent's had a little bit of water and he's ready to go again, because we've got a few runners to get into here. And Trent, I'm going to throw over to you because one of your boyfriends goes around here. Number 1, Nature Strip. Can he win? He's currently favourite for the race. He's had a couple of slip-ups this preparation, but he does find himself favourite at around $4.40. There is $5 around. Can he bounce back? Third up from a spell.
Yeah, absolutely. He can bounce back.
We just knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I think you can, obviously he's had a few issues. I think you can, off his first up run over 1,000 meters, you can easily make a case, to forgive that, because he did the exact same thing against Geers in the Lightning Stakes last year before going on to win some very good races. Obviously his last start is the issue behind Libertini and Classic Legend. Pulled up with a bit of a throat issues, kind of had a few sketchy barrier trials in between. I just think that the camp's going to get him right for this race. I think possibly almost went too slow in that race last start as well. Like Classic Legend on the turn was less than a length off him, whereas you've seen kind of with Nature Strip's best wins, like his TJ Smith win in the autumn, he's put 3 lengths on them coming around the turn and really pinched a break and made them chase a long way out. I think he's going to be absolutely handlebars down from barrier 5 here. if he's gotten over those issues, I think they're going to be setting him to really peak for this race, and I think he could really put a few lengths on this field coming around the turn and make them all chase him down. And if he brings his best, that's the obvious group. But if he brings his best, he wins this.
Yeah, well, he does get his chance. He does look the obvious front runner in the race. It's going to be interesting to see what the likes of Eduardo do coming across from a wide gate, dollar for dollar drawn inside him. Whether they kick up and try and, I suppose, test Nature Strip, who I'm sure has the pace to hold them out. But look, his third up record stands at 5 starts for 4 wins. It's obviously a very scary record, but I just don't know if he's come back as well, this preparation. And leading into a race like this, I'm a firm believer that you really need to be at your best without any hiccups. And we've seen a number of hiccups from him this preparation. He obviously pulled up with mucus last start. Before that, he threw the rider in the trial. And he's just been doing a few things like stepping slowly, throwing his head in the gates, and then being beaten off at the 300-metre mark, which is not what we're used to from Nature Strip. So he would need to be at his very best. And if he does bring his best, I'm sure he's the horse to beat. But he's going to need to be at his very best. And when you're taking $4.40 about a horse in this field, you need to be pretty confident that they are going to be at their best. And I can't take those odds with him. However, I do invariably get it wrong with this horse, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see him come out and win by 4. Let's move on to the horse that I think is the one to beat in the race, and that's number 3, Classique Legend. Very, very good winner first up in the Group 2, the shorts. Another very good run last start in the Premier Stakes. Of course, Libertini went straight past him and beat him by 2 lengths, but he was caught 3 wide the trip throughout, and it was a very brave effort to finish as close as he did. I think third up from a spell, drawn perfectly, barrier 6. With any luck, I think this is the horse to beat. As I said, he's currently around $4.60, $4.80. I do believe he should be favourite. I think he is the one to beat, and I think he's the most likely winner of the race. Trent, how did you see Classique Legend?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously right in the game. He's bringing, the really strong form lines. I think he maps really well from barrier 6 as well. You can make a case that he really should be favourite here over Nature Strip, just off their kind of runs this preparation for sure. I think he'll be right in the finish. He was very unlucky in this race last year. And I think, the $4.60 or so that he's at the moment is probably a fair enough price if you do have those knocks on Nature Strip.
Is Libertini over the odds at $9.50? I mean, as I said, she returned in phenomenal style first up in the Premier Stakes, coming from back in the field to get over the top of them by 2 lengths. Granted, she did have a fantastic run throughout the race. The race presented perfectly for her, but she's beaten Classique Legend by 2 here. She's had 5 starts at the track and distance for 4 wins. She's had 2 wins from her 3 starts, second up from a spell. Does she look over the odds at $9.50, given how dominant she was first up?
Look, you can make a case of that. I think she almost got into favouritism at one point after that race. And then she went and drew barrier 12, which is a bit sticky because, you'd kind of think that her best chance is to be in like a midfield stalking kind of role and just letting rip when the runs start to come. From barrier 12, you can't see them going forward from that gate or, being any better than off midfield. And I just think she might be giving Classique Legend, Geers, and obviously Nature Strip, if he's at his best, a big head start. And I'm just not sure if she's going to be quite good enough to do that. She's an obvious winning chance, and at her very best, she is quite electrifying. She's a very good filly. So I think she's probably about a right price at the moment for me.
Let's touch on number 7, Geers. You've just mentioned him briefly. He, of course, came to Sydney and won the Group 3 Concord Stakes, where he ran past Nature Strip like he was glued to the deck. We haven't seen him since. He's had 6 weeks between runs, but that's probably good for him, given he probably does his racing best on the fresh side. He's had 4 starts, second up from a spell for 2 wins, 2 minor placings. Is he the forgotten horse here? He's currently $6.50, but ever since he beat Nature Strip in the Concord, there hasn't been much made of him because it's just, as I said, he hasn't raced since. So while others have been in the limelight, he's kind of just been tucked away waiting for race day.
Yeah, you could make a case that he's a bit of a forgotten horse there. There's maybe just a bit of recency bias with Libertini and Classique Legend having raced more recently. And Geers just had the 6 weeks between runs, like you said. He's had a trial since then, which was excellent as well. So I think he's obviously going very well. Yeah, probably fresh is best for this horse. He does race well fresh. He's another one I think maps really well from barrier 7. He should get a lovely run just midfield. And yeah, there's no knock on him whatsoever. He's another one that should be right in the finish.
I'm really keen to get your thoughts on two horses that come to this race through Melbourne. The first of those is Trekking, who I think placed in the Moya, was it? And also Behemoth, who's won 3 from 3 this preparation and just keeps going from strength to strength. He, of course, took out the Group 1 Memsie Stakes and then backed it up a couple of weeks later in the Sir Rupert Clarke Stakes. Drops back to 1,200 metres here. I want to get your thoughts because I don't know really how to assess his form. That, you know, the 1,400 metres dropping back to 1,200 metres against the country's elite sprinters. But the way he's been winning, it's pretty hard to knock him.
Yeah, it is. It's a tricky one. You know, I didn't originally think that he'd be suited in Everest, but you know he's going to run out a strong 1,200 metres, so there's no question marks about that. A fast run race, which we should really be seeing here. He's going to be well suited. He loves fast run races. He's coming out of a couple of those Group 1s in Melbourne. He's a big horse. He's a line chaser. He'll run well. Just not sure if he's I'm just not sure of him at 1,200 metres. Barrier 2, he has been jumping quite well, but it could be a touch tricky if he's not super away. Does get Nash on board, so that's probably a big tick there. I agree. I found him a really tough one to assess coming into this race.
If you look back,
I probably won't be backing him, but you could easily make a case.
And if you look back through his form lines, like you look at the strength of the form out of the Memsie, he beat the likes of Mr. Quickie and Glenfiddich, both who came out and won. Mr. Quickie won a Group 1 at his next start, I believe, and Glenfiddich, of course, we saw win easily at Moonee Valley. And then you look through his form in the Sir Rupert Clarke, and he's beaten Dollar for Dollar, who was then ran a big race at his next start too. And of course, he lines up here as the surprise pick. Went really close, beating a nose in the Gilgo last start. So everywhere you look at his form, it looks pretty strong. But again, it's a tough one to line up, dropping back to 1,200 against some of the country's elite sprinters. Get your thoughts on Trekking. As I've said, he ran second in the Group 1 Moya Stakes behind Pippi first up. I think he's much better suited up to 1,200 metres here. Tempo's going to suit. Has a good second up record, good record at the track and distance, draws well, barrier 4. Is he an each way hope at currently around $11?
Yeah, I thought he was a good chance. He's been well backed here as well early. He's into $11. He's kind of sitting around 15, 16 yesterday, I believe. I thought his run first up in the Moya was really good. 1,000 metres, I didn't really give him much of a hope, but he's run really well for second behind Pippi. Like you said, second up record, really strong. Fast run race, 1,200 metres at Randwick is probably his goal in life. I think, he's right in the game. I think he draws well. He can probably just try and settle a couple of pairs closer than last. And if he gets a couple of gaps, I think he's right in the game. You could definitely do something. Definitely do worse and have something on him each way.
Okay, and the other runners we haven't mentioned, we'll just touch on them very quickly. Santarana Lane, Bivouac, Eduardo, Dollar for Dollar, Tofane, and Hortbury on her. Any of those a chance, or are they just making up the numbers?
No, I don't think any of those are really genuine winning chances. I know you were kind of sticking up for Bivouac early. I just thought he might be ready to do something here. I'm not as sold, but I'll let you quickly touch on him if you like.
I'm not sold by any stretch of the imagination, but I just thought second up last preparation, his Newmarket win was very impressive. Didn't have much go his way first up, but Classique Legend did come from behind him and give him a beating. So, interesting runner to kind of take his place. And he's another one that's probably one of the forgotten runners. Like, there's a huge hype on this horse probably this time last year. And he finds himself $14 in betting markets here. But I'm not with him. You can't back everything in the race, and we've touched on pretty well all of them. So betting strategies, I'll throw to you first, and I'm sure you're keen to back Nature Strip.
Yeah, definitely. I think Nature Strip is the one of the kind of the big three, Nature Strip, Classique Legend, Geeter. I think just if he brings his best, he's going to be too good. So I'm happy to back him 3 units to win.
Okay, I'm going to go in the corner of Classique Legend at around $4.60. I'm going to have probably 2 units on him. I will be having something on Geetra. He's currently $6.50, so I'll probably be having a unit on Geetra, and then I might split half a unit each on the likes of Behemoth and possibly Trekking. Might let Trekking go. But yeah, definitely back in Classic Legend, definitely having something on Geetra. And just don't know what to do with Behemoth, so I might just save myself there and have half a unit. Again, it's hard to knock what he's been doing this preparation. So that's the group, not the group one, but that's the Everest. I'll look at the Everest, and you can find both of our runner by runner previews of the Group 1 Caulfield Cup and the Everest on racingbet.com.au. They'll be splashed all over the homepage there, and you can find our thoughts on every single runner in both of Saturday's feature races. Trent, any other thoughts before we sign off for another week?
No, it's very exciting to be finally launching RacingBet, and I hope you'll enjoy the new site and the content that we're putting up there each week.
Yep, so jump on there, guys. Have a play around. Have a look around at all the awesome stuff we've got on the website. As I've said, there's plenty of punting tools, educational pieces, of course, our tips and our previews. And we're going to have a stack more content as we continue to build the site up. At the start of every week, we're going to have some review pieces on the weekend's action. We might throw out a few black book runners or some horses to follow and review the meetings from the weekend. We're going to have plenty of video content for you to get stuck into at the start and the end of the week. Tips for every day of the week. We've got a great team, myself, Trent, Josh Reed, of course, and the horse. So hopefully we're going to be able to find you plenty of winners. So head over to racingbet.com.au. Join us for the journey on the new frontrunner in horse racing content. And we look forward to providing you guys a stack of content going forward into what's set to be another huge spring carnival in Melbourne. Trent, good luck on the weekend, and we'll do this all again next week.